All right, welcome to another episode of The Beard and the Bookie. Obviously, we're missing a beard and a stash, but I'm here, and we've got good old Carl here with us. The beard should be here in a little bit. We have some UFC stuff to talk about later on in the show, so he should be dropping in time to talk about that. Especially, I was talking to the beard before we came on, and we were going through topics, and he's like, "Oh, are we going to talk about this guy?" And I was like, "I have no idea what you're talking about," because Carl, I'm at work, like every night. Like
Right.
I miss a ton of stuff anymore. So he sends me a link, and apparently we've got a UFC fighter comparing his vaccination rights to Hitler disarming the Jews. So that'll be
Oh,
fun. That'll be fun to talk about later. Looking forward to that. But anyway, so let's start with our quote unquote deadline day here. Our buddy, good old Rob Manfred, is walking back and forth across a parking lot in Florida between the owners and the Players Association. I guess volleying proposals or ideas back and forth to try and give us the idea that we're getting closer to a deal. I know about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, he was walking across the parking lot, turned to the reporters there, and gave the comment, "We're working on it." Which, thank you. I'm glad you're working on it now.
was that Heyman who reported that?
There was a bunch of guys that,
Was
that,
there?
that put it out there. I would say it wasn't just Heyman. I know Drellage put it out there, and others. I'm trying not to listen to Heyman. I mean, ever since yesterday when Heyman put out that tweet, there's optimism a deal could get done, today.
Right.
I'm not following Heyman. Like I'll listen to the guys that have, you know, kind of been on the right path here for most of the time. But I mean, the whole idea that we're at a deadline right now, that this is a quote unquote deadline day, is a joke. Um, the report earlier today was that the owners told the players they are willing to miss a month, which again, no surprise, you didn't need to pull that one out. We already knew that. Okay, players have known that. I mean, it is no big secret that owners would have no problem foregoing 20 games in April when the attendance is low for three-fourths of the league because, not everybody wants to come out on a Wednesday night in April, on the Northeast.
Right. Well, I went to a
So,
game here last April, and it was a bit chilly.
yeah. So
But
the owners have no problem punting April. And I also feel like they have no problem punting May either. Um, you know, I feel like I'm going to repeat a lot of stuff that I've repeated on this show, but there's a lot of times that we have conversations with people that we know in our chat groups and other things that don't listen to this show, or at least me, enough. So I feel like I need to repeat myself. None of this is a surprise. Okay. We knew the players were going to be dug in. All right. After almost a decade of MLB getting their way in these negotiations and, taking more and more from the players in each agreement, the players were going to be dug in. They weren't going to blink at the first sign of anything. And so far, the owners haven't done anything unexpected. The lockout, which, when it was instituted, Manfred said they were doing this in hopes of, you know, for, I forget the exact verbiage he used, but kind of like in a way to boost a dialogue, a negotiation. But then he did the lockout, and then they didn't send a proposal for 43 days. So obviously he wasn't that keen on having a negotiation. I mean, even in these conversations that he's had, Manfred is I mean, Manfred yesterday spent 40 minutes there. 40 minutes. I mean, why did it take till this week to have them negotiating in the same place every day?
Right. Yeah.
But
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just, and here, and again, it's like, okay, they're going to miss game checks. The stipend will kick in. Okay. They've already said guys will get $5,000 at the start. It'll go up to $15,000.
Is that from the central revenue that they pull?
That's from the players have put together this, they call it a war chest.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
In preparation for this. This wasn't, they've been prepared for this.
Right.
This isn't something that's been blindsided. And, again, this is the owners have an issue with the players, and they have an issue with themselves, which we're going to get to something else that happened today that I think will dive a little more into the issues with the owners. But nothing in these negotiations has shown a willingness by the owners to really want to make a deal. I mean, even in this past week, twice we've had the players come with a proposal in which they have kind of backed off on some of their demands. And then the owners have shown no willingness to budge on almost anything. I mean, there have been things that were on the table that are now not even on the table.
I mean, the Super Twos is one of them.
Yeah. So, and then I mean, we even had a situation yesterday where we had, the one of the big things has been the owners pushing for a 14-team playoff expansion. And then one of the weird ideas that we saw yesterday was this idea of a ghost win, as
the ghost win. Yeah, that's right.
So under this situation, the Brewers and Phillies played a 3-game series last year. And under this ghost win situation, it would essentially be that the Brewers start the series. They're going to play a 3-game series, but the Brewers start the series up 1-0 already. So essentially, the Brewers only need to win 2 of the 3 games, whereas the Phillies would have to win all 3 games. It was a dumb idea. I mean, you want to give it points for creativity, sure, but that's one of the dumbest things I've heard. There's no ghost wins here. No, thank you. Move along. But here I don't know if this takes me off screen or not. It probably does, but I want to read something real quick here for you. Player pay has decreased for 4 consecutive years, even as the industry revenues have grown and franchise values have soared. Even though anybody that talks and listens would have you think from the owners that owning a team is not a profitable venture. The service time has been manipulated to keep players from free agency and arbitration. The luxury tax instituted to discourage runaway spending has basically turned into a de facto salary cap. And too many teams don't go anywhere near it, instead gutting their rosters and slashing payrolls because the rules incentivize losing. Don't forget, we had Commissioner Manfred call the World Series trophy a piece of metal, and the league has awarded a team that did the best job of curtailing arbitration salaries a replica championship belt. Okay? Just based on what I just read, if you are the players, why would you blink? Why would you budge on anything right now?
I agree. I definitely agree. The only reason why they'll blink is because of the money, because they need to get paid. Whereas, the owners, this isn't their only business, venture. Their owners are getting paid. Maybe not from baseball, but they're getting paid from something else. And the idea of, teams will go up to that luxury tax and then they'll just stop. And just so they're not penalized or whatever. And that's a whole nother issue in itself. I think the Yankees, there were a few teams who did that last year or this year, to where they went to the threshold and they just immediately stopped spending.
the Yankees have been, because if you remember the Yankees for it's always been the third year that you're over is like the steepest penalty.
Right.
So the Yankees were over for 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And when talking about, that third year and would they be over the tax, it was a talking point that the Yankees were determined to be under the tax, so they wouldn't be
Right.
taxed the third time and basically reset the clock. I mean, and that's the point. For all this talk about, with salary cap. Oh, MLB doesn't have a salary. They kind of do, because there haven't been many owners that have repeatedly said, I don't care. I mean, not everybody, and we don't know. Whenever we do have baseball this year, we have no idea what the CBT will be. We have no idea what the penalties will be. We have none of that. But we haven't had many owners doing what Steve Cohen has done this offseason, where, if we were just looking at what the CBT is at the moment, or what it was, I should say, I mean, he blew by it. I mean,
Right.
he's cleared the hurdle. I mean, we are looking. I mean, he could potentially, if he wants to make another big move, we could potentially be looking at a $300 million payroll.
Right. Yeah.
So, and there haven't been owners that have treated the CBT like this. I mean, the Dodgers have gone over, but the Dodgers aren't, the Dodgers have gone over by 10, 15, 20. I think their payroll last year was somewhere in the 250 area or something like that. But I mean, I don't want to hear the idea that MLB is the only sport without a salary. They have one now. I mean, teams have acted like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not called a salary cap per se, but I think if you read between the lines, you know exactly what it is. I think the Padres were similar in that boat too, to where they just stopped spending, I believe, or I think it was the Padres. They were another team in that boat.
And like you said, the owners have no reason to do anything, because their feeling is that the players will budge because they're the ones that will lose the money. The owners have other avenues of revenue, and of course, April isn't exactly a big revenue for them anyway. And even the TV deal doesn't. If you lose the April games, it doesn't affect the TV deal. The TV deal has X amount of games that need to be played for the teams to get paid.
Right.
So even if you lose the April games, you still have the same amount of games. I mean, they could go into June and still hit the amount of games needed for the TV deals to kick in.
Right.
So they're not worried about that. And again, they are testing the players' will. The players have said they're dug in. The players have said that Manfred and the owners have not dealt in good faith, which by all accounts they haven't. I'm not sure if you actually know the details of past negotiations and CBAs and just the things that have happened, how you could be on the owner's side in any of this. I mean, do the players take some blame? Absolutely. It's not all on the owners, but there's a lot of it on the owners. And I believe there's a lot of it on Manfred as well. I don't understand how you institute a lockout, talk about you want it to emphasize, starting a negotiation. You wait 43 days to send a proposal, and then you waited until you had to start canceling spring training games to get these two in an area to negotiate on a day-by-day basis. I mean, these guys, these two were going weeks between proposals.
Right.
And even, last year, coming out of the COVID season, and when they were working out, all the COVID guidelines and how they were going to get through a full season with COVID still, a factor, this could have been something that could have been talked about then.
But I was about to say that. Why has it taken so long? You knew this was coming up. This was not like, this wasn't an issue that, this was a foreseen issue. I don't understand why, at least half of this wasn't discussed, recently or within the past year or 2 years. So at least you have something set in place that everybody agrees on, and then, so yeah, there may still be a few issues you need to tweak or work out to come to an agreement, but the bulk of the work's already been completed.
You could have had parameters at least. I mean, even
That's
if
what I
you
mean.
weren't, I'm saying even if you got, even if the season had ended and you needed to sit down and you needed to still hammer out things, okay, you could have had, a general idea of, okay, I've got a gap here that we need to bridge. I've got a gap here. Okay, but we've hammered out this already, and we've hammered out this. I mean, when you've got the core economic issues that these have and that these two have, and the distrust between these two, and all of that, the idea that you were going to try and hammer this all out in a matter of a few months was ridiculous.
Right.
It was ridiculous. I mean, I believe either at I forget if it was the All-Star break or around the World Series, one or the other. There was supposedly like the first offer was thrown out, but that was it. It was just a quick offer, nothing that was deemed serious. It was quickly rejected and moved on, and that was it. And then we just went about it, But even still, after the World Series, you had 2 months there of free agency before the CBA expired, and there was no talk then either. Like, you knew
Right.
the CBA was expiring and you had no conversations.
Right.
So,
what is it? You have to have 7? You can't have more than 7 owners disagree on an issue. Like, what is it? 8's like if 8 owners don't agree, is that where?
I believe. Let's figure this out. So there's 30 owners.
There's 30 owners.
Yeah,
So 23 have to agree.
Yeah,
I want to.
I don't think 23 sounds right. I want to say maybe it's a little less. I think it's essentially 2/3. In that area, but and then we have, but another thing that happened too, which just gave the players more ammo and probably a little more adrenaline, was throughout this negotiation they've gone to MLB and they've asked them to open the books.
Right.
Let us see the team's finances, which wasn't going to happen. But there are a few teams, one like the Braves, who are publicly owned and have to disclose that at the end of the year. So we found out what the Braves have done. During that COVID season, they made a little over $150 million. And then last year, the World Series season, obviously, they made over $500 million.
Shit.
So, okay, and we're talking about the Braves. We're talking about the Braves. We're not talking about the Dodgers or, the Yankees or somebody like that. Or even let's get better. Let me see what the Marlins is.
I was gonna just say that. Like, what are the Marlins making or losing?
Right, because
that's what I'm curious about.
Because that's a good way to segue to our next thing,
right?
Which is Derek Jeter today resigned not only as CEO but as owner, relinquished his ownership in the Marlins. And in the statement he put out, he said that the vision he had when he signed on for this, and I forget the exact wording. Hold on, let me. I texted it to you, so let me get the exact wording here so I don't misquote him. The vision of the future of the franchise is different than the one. Oops, sorry about that. Hit the wrong button.
You're good.
So yeah, the vision of the franchise that I signed up for is different. Whatever I just said, I got cut off. Hold on, I'll give you the exact one again here, real quick. Dun, dun, dun. The vision of the future of the franchise is different than the one I signed up to lead. There we go. So there was a report that he was originally told by ownership that whenever the lockout was done, he would have another $15 million to spend on the roster, which apparently now he was told they weren't going to do. Big surprise, the Marlins aren't going to spend money. But over the last 5 years, they have drastically reduced their payroll, essentially cutting it in half. When Jeter first, when Jeter and that group first got the Marlins, the payroll was at about 119 million, and then they made the deals. They got rid of Stanton, they got rid of Yellows, they got rid of Ozuna, all that, and their payroll now stands in the 50-ish range, a little over $50 million. And then, mind you, last year the Marlins TV deal kicked in. So, and all these teams now, in one way or another, have a TV deal, whether it is, somebody like the
Bally's.
Yeah, so a lot of them are racked up with Bally's. The Mets and the Yankees have their own networks.
Right.
Like out here in Philly, the Phillies have Comcast. They all have their own deals. But the the purpose behind getting all these TV deals and getting these rights was the influx of cash was supposed to help, especially the small market teams, be able to then spend on the roster, which the
Right.
Marlins aren't doing. But I know, and I'm sure you're going to get to it here in a moment. I know where you stand on Jeter.
Yeah.
And I typically would agree with you and be on your side. However, I think there is a little more to read into this. Okay? I don't think the 15 mil is the reason why Jeter suddenly took his ball and went home.
I don't either, by the way. I don't think that, he doesn't need 10 to 15 million. You know what I mean? And
well, no, not for him. I mean for to spend on the roster.
I
don't think the idea of a broken promise was the reason why he now decided to leave.
Right.
I believe that now remember, okay, and again, you and me are typically on the same side here because I've always been anti-Jeter when it came to the Marlins because this group, quote unquote, led by Derek Jeter, everybody thinks that Jeter's like the sole owner on this. No, he had a stake because he didn't have the money and the group didn't have the money. The group didn't even have the money.
Yes, exactly.
No
wonder why they slashed payroll in half.
It's funny. The only thing that I can remember, at least in recent history, as bad as letting Jeter and the ownership group buy the Marlins when they really didn't have the money, was back after the Madoff situation with the Mets.
Oh, with the
Selig let the Wilpons borrow money from the league.
Yeah, give that loan.
And then when it came time to pay the league back, they couldn't. And Selig gave them an extension. So, I mean, Manfred just following in the steps of his predecessor here. But going back to my point, I think what has happened is that I think Jeter maybe hasn't sat in on these talks, but obviously has a good finger on the pulse of these negotiations. And right. I think, and at his core, I think Jeter, as much as he would love to be an owner, okay, he doesn't have the money to be a sole owner. I don't think he had the power necessarily that he thought he'd have in that front office. Remember last year they signed Kim Ning to be the first female GM, and by all accounts, she has, a lot of the power in that building, more so than I believe Jeter ever had. So I feel like she's probably making all the decisions there. But I feel like Jeter was in these negotiations and he's hearing these owners, and I think Jeter is still a player at his core. And even maybe player is the wrong word, but competitor.
I would agree. I would agree with that statement.
And I believe that what he's hearing, especially from teams like the Marlins and other small market teams, is just that they are trying to find ways to worry more about their bottom line and not the product on the field.
Right.
And I think that got to him a little too much. And then hearing all that, and then this $15 million that was supposed to be spent on the roster, and then he was told not, I think just kind of combined with it all. And he finally said, I'm done.
But okay, where did that go though? If it wasn't spent on the roster, was it spent on scouting?
That's the thing. It was supposed to be. It hasn't been spent yet. It was supposed to be whenever this is done, whenever we have an agreement.
Right.
Okay, you're going to have $15 million here to go out and, there's still all these free agents out here. Go out and approve the roster.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's being told there isn't. There won't be. So, whether that's telling him we're not going to make any moves when we come out of this, you've only got $5 million to go and make. I don't know. I mean, 15 million. I don't really know what he was going to do with 15 either.
That's not a whole lot of money, by the way.
No. I mean, what, you're going to sign 2 relievers? So, but I think it was a combination of things, and it ate at him so much. And again, it wasn't that he left the CEO. If he left the CEO, I would just say, I would look more at the situation in that front office and go, he doesn't have the power that he wants. He's not the ultimate decision maker, and he can't handle that. So he walked away. But he said, I'm out completely. Take my ownership stake. I'm done. So that,
how much is his stake worth? It's not worth very much, is it?
I don't think he had very much at all. It was probably a few.
Million.
I don't know what it was money wise, but I mean, as far as like if we're breaking it, if you're breaking up the 100%, I would say he probably had at most 5, maybe less.
Right.
I don't know that for sure. I mean,
I was just curious on how much his ownership stake is worth.
Oh, I don't know what it's worth. I have no idea.
You know what? They should have just let A-Rod buy the team.
No. There's another guy who didn't have the money.
I know.
Besides, A-Rod, when Josh gets on, we can, he can tell you all about A-Rod. He's running the Timberwolves now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that whole thing. But like I said, about 2 hours ago was the last thing that I had saw about the state of these, the back and forth. They're still talking. I mean, if you want to take that as a good sign, sure. But opening day is not happening. I've told you that for.
Well, yeah, and we're what, a month away from April 1st.
Yeah, we're exactly 31 days away from opening day. But I've told you since this show's inception, since before the show on the old show, that we weren't going to have opening day. When we were still playing last year, I told you this opening day wouldn't happen. So, I mean, this is no surprise. I would be very, very, very surprised if May 1st was opening day too. I think we're missing at least 2 months.
Yeah, you know what? Because here's the deal. Let's just say it takes. I don't know how close they are.
They're not close at all. That's the point.
So let's just say it takes.
It's not like, not to cut you off, but it's not like I'm sitting here and they're having negotiations. It's like, okay, well, they've hammered out 4 key points, and They're 10 mil apart in the CBT, and
Right.
and 10 mil apart on or maybe $100,000 apart on minimum player salary, and we have small bridges to gap. No,
Right.
we still have monumental issues
Yeah.
with like Hoover Dam size gaps between them. Like, you know, the the Constitution was written in less time it's going to take to hammer this out. I just want to hammer that home. But go ahead, continue
No, but
your
I
thought.
mean that's what I mean. So it's what tomorrow's the 1st. You would assume that let's just say it takes 2 weeks minimum, because it's not happening within the next week. So we'll just say 2 weeks, and that's being generous. You still need spring training.
Manfred said 4 weeks for spring training.
Right. So that's a month of spring training. So
that puts you at mid-April.
Right.
If they could hammer it out in 2 weeks. That's a big if. You know what I want, since Manfred called the World Series trophy a piece of metal?
Piece of metal, yeah.
Whoever runs the MLB Twitter account on April 1st, I want them to put out a tweet that says "Happy Opening Day," and then underneath of it go, "April Fools."
I know, right? I want to know, and I don't know if we're going to get to it, but and we had talked, we had briefly.
We can get to whatever you want. Go ahead.
But I want to know how they're working this major deal with NBC and Peacock, but we don't even get a product.
See, there you go. I'm glad you brought that up. So what you're bringing up is the report that came out today, which wonderful timing. We're in the middle of these negotiations.
Right.
That they are talking to NBC about a $150 million broadcasting rights deal. Now, somebody in our chat group said, "Oh, I think it's great that NBC wants to show MLB." It would be great if it was actual NBC.
No,
it's not. It's NBC Sports, which doesn't exist anymore. And like you said, it's Peacock. It's essentially a streaming deal.
It's a streaming service. Exactly what it is.
But this is another bird in the hand that MLB has. Here, let me let's switch. Apparently, my one ear is going to die here, so let's switch this up real quick. So this is, like I said, it's the other bird in the hand for MLB. So they've got 100 to 150 million sitting here with this NBC negotiation. And then the moment they sign the CBT with what we assume is going to be expanded postseason, whether it's 12, 14, whatever that happens to be, they've got, okay, now remember, we're talking about 100 and 150 mil with NBC, okay? They've got $1 billion agreement with ESPN for the expanded postseason.
Right.
So you've got all that money just waiting until you sign on the dotted line, and the players are not naive or stupid to not notice that here's the money that's going to come once we sign. So that's why the players are going, okay, so what cut are we getting of this money as soon as we sign here? Because as soon as we sign, you get paid.
Right. What do the players get now every year for TV rights? Or is it TV rights? Is it merchandising rights, or what the war chest? Where exactly does that pool of money come from?
The war chest comes from the players themselves.
Okay.
I would say basically it's the union. It's essential. How can the best way I can describe it? It's like a. I don't want to say 401k because 401k accrues, but it's like a savings account,
right?
Or like a not a savings account, but like an
IRA,
a hedge fund without the stocks. It's
Okay.
money that you can all throw in, and then at the given time, we're going to pull out from.
Right.
Union dues, essentially.
Right.
I mean,
That makes sense.
they
Yeah.
don't always pay, obviously they're not paying union dues, but in this situation, it's, hey, we want you to chip in X amount. We're going to build up this war chest, and then here, if and when the time comes, here's how we're going to distribute the money to everybody.
Right.
So, that's the plan. But yeah, so they're sitting there with about 1.2 million in media rights as soon as they get this deal signed, and they can't hammer anything out. Good job, Rob. By the way, remember when Rob said it would be disastrous to cancel games?
Doesn't Rob work for the owners? Is it like he's commissioner? Like,
well, this is what I said. I think this was the conversation I had on the last show with Josh. Was I understand that Rob works for the owners. Okay,
right.
He is ultimately there for the owner's best interest.
Right.
But at the end of the day, he is the commissioner, and he's supposed to be serving the best interest of baseball.
Correct.
Which is why, again, I'm not asking him to sit there and tell the owners they've got to bend over backwards and take everything to the players demand, because that's not his job. He's working for the owners. But what he should have done was he should have gone to the owners and said, we need to. Okay, he should have got them sitting at a table every day sooner than this last week. Okay, and there are some issues where he should be telling the owners, listen, you can bend a little bit here to win over here. He should be there bridging gaps and convincing owners that it's in their best interest. Okay, but instead he's got a group of owners that he can't convince. They're not worried about the harm that it's going to do to their sport. They're just looking at the bottom line, and they have no idea that kicking at least a month away is going to do irreparable harm to this sport. There are not many owners there that went through this in 94. Most of those owners in 94 have either gone, have either sold or have died, and the team has been passed down. I mean, George went through it in 94. Now Hal's going through it.
Right.
As one example. I mean, there's not many people in there that have experience of actually going through this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think maybe that's one of the reasons why it's taking so long. I mean, that may be how do you say it? That may be like a factor, because they really don't know what they're doing. And I mean, yeah, they're lawyers, but
and the worst part is they'll get all the, at some point they'll get the money figured out, and and they'll sign off, and you're hoping that people will come back. I mean, the diehards will always come back, but you're hoping you don't lose every average fan that semi paid attention. Okay, well, but the worst part is that whoever does come back is going to come back, and the same issues that they have with the product on the field are still there.
Well, I was going to mention that as well. It's like, the last thing, and I mean the absolute last thing baseball needed was a lockout. I mean, whatever steam you've made or whatever changes you're trying to make or anything like that, those young fans, they're not going to stick around and watch it. They don't want to deal with this crap. So, and you're right, the product on the field isn't going to get any better with this. If their biggest issue are like, is the arbitration rules, because arbitration's what, 2 years to 6, or no, 2 to 4 is when you enter arbitration.
2 to Super 2, so years 3 through 5, 2 to 5. Technically 3 to 5, but could be 2 to 5 depending if you're
right. If you're like the top 22% or whatever. or 22% or however it is. So yeah, I just, to be honest with you, most fans could give two shits about money, the money aspect of it. Like, I know it's pretty cliche to say, but it is. It's billionaires against millionaires. That's what the casual fan's gonna say, and they're just not gonna stick around. It's terrible. It's a bad situation. So, I mean, we all know, the biggest, October is the big deal, is, where they make all their money and all this and that. But they need to play the games. They don't need to be missing 2 or 3 months of game time and then expect a bunch of people just to pick up.
One last thing before we move off this topic is, now this would never happen. Okay, I'm not suggesting this is something that would happen. I mean, the Players Association today announced that they have fully staffed facilities in I think it's one in Florida and one in Arizona, like your basic spring training locations for players to go and work out and stuff while this is going on. So the Players Association, at least, prepared. But Carl, what if the players said, we'll start our own league? Because, and here's what I'm getting at, and here's what I think the owners overlook sometimes, and the players don't have enough resolve in. And here, let me just read this real quick. Sports is a unique industry. Typically, workers make a product. In baseball, they are the product. The game of baseball is the framework, and in it exists two classes, players and owners. Players spend their entire lives chasing the major leagues. Making it to the big leagues is improbable. Staying there long enough to make life-changing money is a miracle. Owners who don't inherit teams join the baseball world just as they would a country club by buying membership. If you went and got the next 1,200 best players in the world, the product would suffer greatly. If you handed MLB teams over to any 30 competent business people, the sport would not suffer. It actually might improve. It doesn't take a billionaire to leverage a spot in a legalized monopoly with profound built-in revenues. The Yankees are not the Yankees if Ruth, Gehrig, Mantle, and Berra don't win. Without the best players, they aren't in the World Series, and without championships, they're more than an organization in a big market whose laundry features pinstripes. One would think then that a league would recognize that its profit exists because of the likes of Ohtani, Tatis, Trout, Soto, Betts, Acuna, Guerrero, and others, and would see players' concerns about the state of a game not trivial or excessive or outrageous, but vital. And that's one other thing that the casual fan overlooks, is that Major League Baseball, thanks to an antitrust rule, is the only legalized monopoly still in America.
Yeah. I mean, and they've fought that plenty of times in court. I mean, there are alternative leagues out there. I think last week or the week before, I waited online for an hour in a queue to buy Savannah Banana and, Kansas City Monarch tickets. But I mean, that's all a big gimmick, though. Shit. That's all a big gimmick. Oh, there he is. Sorry, my cat just jumped.
Beard coming in. Yeah, all good. There's the beard.
You can ask him about A-Rod now.
Yeah.
Ask me about what now?
How are you? Oh, no. Carl said, we were talking about how Jeter left the Marlins today, and Carl had mentioned how they should have let A-Rod buy the Marlins. And I said, why would we do that when he bought the Timberwolves already? You know all about that, don't you?
I mean, I know that he purchased it, and that's about as far as it goes. Yeah, like I actually care about basketball.
So he's not sitting courtside? figured A-Rod would be courtside or up in the box.
Me or A-Rod?
A-Rod. I figured he'd be going Cuban style at this point.
I mean, no, A-Rod just wants to own the team. He doesn't want to actually be in Minnesota. Like that's the misconception that you're having right now. Like a guy like A-Rod doesn't want to spend his time in Minneapolis at the Target Center just because he owns the team. Like if anything, he might fly up, be in a private box somewhere, and then leave immediately after the game. That's the extent that he's going to be here, though.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so we did enough baseball talk. Here's something else. Here's something that Josh can talk about, even though he hates baseball, because he hates this man too, and that's LeBron. So did you? LeBron might even have a bigger ego than A-Rod, incidentally. But after the Rams won the Super Bowl, did you see LeBron tell I think it was Aaron Donald, that they should have done a parade together because the Lakers didn't really ever get to do a parade because in the bubble. So they should have combined parades.
I mean, sure, if you're LeBron, that makes perfect sense because you're just begging for more attention. So
exactly.
Yeah, I totally get it from his perspective, but I mean, if you're the Rams, you just look at him, fuck off, bud.
If I'm Aaron Donald, If I'm Aaron Donald, I would tackle him and hope I'd break every bone in his body.
Well, you can't do that because then you're going to get fined. You probably get suspended for a couple games because LeBron's going to flop and make it look worse than it is. So,
I mean, LeBron's got
it unless Aaron Donald was.
LeBron had to steal the Rams spotlight because the Lakers are trash, complete trash.
They just lost to who did they lose to last night? It was LeBron, Russ, and somebody else.
They lost to. Hold on, give me a second. They lost to the Pelicans.
It was the Pelicans.
No, so they lost to Lonzo.
No, not Lonzo. They lost to C.J. McCollum.
Zion?
No, Zion's still fat.
Zion has only played like 81 games or 80 games in his whole 3-year career. He's going to end up.
So he's the Byron Buxton of basketball. I got you.
I think he's going to end up going to New York at some point in time, but that's my opinion.
No, he's not going to New York. Wait, stop with the New York thing. Who goes to the Knicks?
His college teammates.
Carmelo Anthony.
Who is? I just want to point this out because I had to have this conversation. Who's the last person that went to the Knicks? Who's the last person that said I want to go to the Knicks and went to the Knicks?
Carmelo Anthony.
Exactly. And how long ago was that?
I was like, shit.
5 years ago.
Try 10.
I was gonna say 10.
It's been a decade.
Hey man.
It's been a decade, and you know what's happened since that decade? They sucked.
They got rid of Porzingis.
So did Dallas.
You're right, Dallas. You're right, Dallas did. Yeah, they had that issue last night with the Lakers. LeBron and them were yelling at the fans or talking shit to the fans.
That's because LeBron's not used to getting booed because he sucks.
Well, Jeannie Buss left early too after they were down 25.
But I mean, if you've listened to LeBron over the past couple of weeks, he's already planning the exit strategy. Okay, he went there All-Star weekend, and said the door's not closed on me going back to Cleveland for a third time because we all want to see that. He's also said that basically whoever drafts his kid, he's going to play for. By the way, Adam Silver, that's not tampering in any way. No, not at all.
No,
not at all.
No.
So we've got that. Then we've got Bill Simmons today. If the stash was here, Josh, he'd be interested in this. We had Bill Simmons today talking about that people that have the money that would be in the know are jockeying because there is the strong belief that the NBA is going to expand 2 more teams. The location is going to be Seattle. We're going to go back to Seattle. And also Vegas.
Of course.
And that they are going to position for LeBron to be part of the ownership group in Vegas.
Great.
Why?
Because I
what
listened to.
Does he have to Vegas?
I don't know, what money did Jeter have to be an owner?
Well, I mean, at least when Jordan bought in on the Pelicans, like he's from the Carolinas, so it made sense he was at least from the same region. Like LeBron being from Ohio and owning a team in Vegas doesn't make much sense.
Well, I don't think he's going to buy the Cavs from Dan Gilbert. I think the last time him and Gilbert had a conversation was when Gilbert wrote that slave letter.
That was a good letter.
Oh my God. Forgot about
I
that
enjoyed
one.
reading that. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So there's that situation. But apparently, so I listened to the Simmons thing. He said that, the league would really like a strong minority presence as part of the ownership groups in both Vegas and Seattle. And LeBron has been open about wanting to be an owner in some space in the league. So, basically it would be under the Vegas scenario that Simmons laid out, it would be almost like the Jeter situation in Miami, except LeBron would be what LeBron is now, which is he'd call the shots.
No. Look how great they're doing.
I mean, they won it last year in a bubble, so he did okay.
That
That
was
caught
garbage.
up to him real quick.
I would say the NBA. Okay, this is
when they
going to
beat
sound.
that was when they
messed
beat the
up, but
Heat.
I just want. Yes, but this is going to sound messed up, but I just want to point this out. Do we think at all? The bubble situation was thrown together very quickly, and then the Lakers, if you remember before the bubble, were pretty hurt, and then they kind of extended that thing until the Lakers got healthy. Do we think that maybe things would have not set up as perfectly for the Lakers had the Kobe thing not happened, and the league felt like they needed to get some goodwill toward the Lakers?
Impossible to know that.
Hey, I'm just connecting dots here. I'll play conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, you're
Maybe
Charlie Day and Always Sunny, like Pepe Silva.
But yeah, screw LeBron. Hey, by the way, real quickly, since the beard is here, we might as well talk about the other beard.
I don't know.
Sixer fans need to calm down. It's 2 games. I've seen James Harden do this. Okay? I got Joel Embiid over here talking like they're Kobe and Shaq, saying how they're unstoppable. You're not going to win the East. Let it go. Have fun beating up on the Knicks and who else did they beat? Somebody that was like okay. Like
Last night was the Knicks, right?
The Grizzly or something. Yeah, yesterday was the Knicks.
Yeah, yesterday
which,
was the Knicks.
if Embiid didn't go to the line, if Embiid doesn't go to the line 30 times, the Knicks might have won that game.
Yeah. I mean, he had a triple-double last night.
I mean,
I think he had 27.
Yeah, but this is what he does. This is the same thing that happened when he went to Brooklyn. Okay,
Well,
if you remember when he went to
he
Brooklyn,
lost all that. He lost all
month,
that weight. All of a sudden, his hamstrings are fine.
When he first got to Brooklyn, if you remember, it was, who is this new James Harden? Who is this guy that can deal out all these assists and be a playmaker and all? and be a ball distributor. I've never seen this James Harden. Who is this guy? Oh my God. This new James Harden would really work in the league. And then the playoffs came, and it was, hey, look, James Harden took 30 shots and made 5.
Hey, man, that's Harden-esque. It really is.
Okay, if the NBA Finals are a strip club, I'll expect to see James Harden. Other than that, not happening.
I'll tell you, the guy I do like for the Sixers, I like Maxey, man. I think he's a really good young player there.
Tobias Harris is an afterthought now.
Yeah, exactly. And then, I mean, the thing about this, I don't want to rag on Philly, but they've been blessed with Simmons for so long that, you know, Harden had more threes in his first game than Simmons had there his whole career.
I think Josh has as many threes.
I do. I absolutely do.
So, yeah, the Lakers are right now.
Right?
Yeah, the Lakers right now are 9th in the West.
They're garbage. They won't do anything.
No.
All right. That's enough of that. Carl, you and I can talk college basketball here at the end of the show. Since the beard is here, let's skip the things that the beard can talk about. Hey, so did you see Kyler's ultimatum today?
He has an ultimatum now for the Cards?
Well, technically, his agent was the one that put out the ultimatum.
Something about he wants to get a new deal where he's not coming back.
Basically, it was, I want to be a Cardinal. I want to win a Super Bowl, but you're going to pay me. Like, we're not going to play. I don't know what the actual
ultimatum is, though.
Well, here's the funny thing: is that the agent of Kyler Murray is also the agent of Cliff Kingsbury, and McAfee on his show says that this kind of all stems from a situation in which the coaches are supposed to get playoff shares, and the owner was so upset after the playoff loss that he didn't pay the playoff shares to the coaches, and they're not, and he's not sure if they ever got them. So, like, again, going down the conspiracy route, they're wondering if maybe Kingsbury, Kyler's got to know what the agent's putting out, and they share an agent. So is Kingsbury going, hey, kick the owner? I don't care. He's not helping me out either.
The owner has a mutiny on his hands, apparently.
If I'm the owner, I'd tell Kyler to suck it.
Send him to Minnesota. What?
So what's Kyler's threat, though? Like, right.
I think
what's his threat? I'm not going to play. I'll go play baseball.
No, I think
we're
not
again, paying Kyler, 2 quarterbacks $50 million. We're not doing that.
No, you just send Kurt their way.
We don't have the cap space for Kyler Murray right now.
God, that's a long statement.
I think basically what they are trying to do is kind of pull a Deshaun Watson without the whole rub and tug situation behind him. Like, you're going to pay me. We're not going to wait this out. I'm not going to wait for 5th-year options and all this stuff. You're going to pay me now, or you're going to get me out of here. So again, which if I was the Cardinals, I'd say shut your mouth and learn how to play quarterback.
You know what? It's normally I would be on his side. I get it. Like what they started 7-0 this year, and then they completely shit themselves. But I'm usually pro player on this, but when the player acts like a juvenile, like a petulant child, and like scrubs, Instagram or social media and stuff, and is very passive aggressive, I have a hard time getting behind him. Like be an adult. You don't need to take this public.
There is,
and like go who's our GM, Steve Keim. So you and your agent walk up in there and go talk to the GM. You know what I mean? But when you start making everything public and like that, I just find it's harder for me to get behind you and support you.
We also have the musical chairs of announcers. Sean McVay apparently turned down $100 million to be the Amazon Thursday night guy. So I guess he's going to come back and be the Rams coach now.
That was Amazon.
I mean, I don't know if y'all remember Kyler's rookie year. Hard Knocks was the Raiders that year, I think. And they played Arizona.
I thought Josh was going to finish his thought. Yeah. All right. I think Josh has an audio issue, so we're going to try and fix that. But so while Josh tries to figure that out, so yeah, Amazon offered McVay reportedly $100 million to be the Thursday night guy. He turned it down, so he's going back to the Rams. ESPN just got Aikman for Monday Night Football for like $75 million. Reportedly now Amazon is going after Herb Street for Thursday Night Football.
I saw that too.
And also, and I know there have been rumblings about Al Michaels as well, about trying to get him.
I thought ESPN was going, or maybe it was Amazon, they were going after, I think, Michaels or somebody else, and he turned them down. So they were going to go look at they were going to search another avenue. I think this was last week.
Well, maybe I was going to say, maybe Michaels did turn him down. I didn't see the turn down part. I know they were after him, but it would make sense that, they were after McVay. Now they're after Herb Street, so that Michaels probably, because Michaels was the one that I saw first. So it would make sense that he turned him down. Then they pivot.
Right.
But I mean, they really need to try and, Amazon, they've got a little bit of time here, but, they're launching the Thursday Night Football thing this year. So they got to get a team in place, and they obviously want to make a splash because everybody right now is trying to position himself. And that's why ESPN has even made the shakeup here, is because after this season, Red Zone and NFL Ticket are up for bid.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody is positioning to try and get their
team together
in the best position, because it's not only about money, but I mean, it's basically the NFL's choice. I mean, everybody's got the money. Mickey can match up with Amazon as far as money, but it's who's going to give the best. Who's going to be ultimately the best for Goodell in the NFL.
Right.
I mean, Amazon is basically coming in here as the new, the new kid in town. So, I think the NFL is on a wait and see approach with just how Thursday night goes.
I'm trying to see who has the Super Bowl broadcasting rights coming up, because I don't see the NFL giving it to ESPN, without them making drastic changes to their broadcasting team.
Well, the Super Bowl rights, I think, are still, they're not moving off of, because they rotate between
NBC,
CBS, and
CBS.
Does Fox have? Yeah. I'm trying to remember if Fox has
it does
the Super Bowl or not.
Right now, well.
All right, let's get Josh back in here and see if he's good to go. There we go. Josh has returned.
Next year's on Fox. Fox has it next year.
Okay, so I was right about the Fox thing.
And then the following year in Vegas, it's CBS. So yeah. Yeah. That's for the next 2 years. It's going to be Fox and CBS.
Yeah, but like I said, after this year, it'll be really interesting to see what happens, because I mean, I know a lot of people, and most of us here live with Red Zone. I mean, that's how we consume. I think that's how we consume the NFL on Sundays. Is just
Scott Hansen, man.
We don't watch games anymore. We just watch Red Zone. But it would be super weird to not be able to access Red Zone like we do right now, and that's a very real possibility a year from now.
When did Sunday Ticket end? Was that last year? Is that when DirecTV?
No, it's this year. This is the last year.
Oh, okay, so DirecTV no longer has that.
Yeah, after this year, it'll be up for whoever.
Yeah, that wasn't even the greatest thing in the world.
I think that's what Amazon is positioning for.
Just to have the rights to stream all the games?
Yeah, I think Amazon wants to be the ultimate NFL streaming platform.
They want the rights, essentially.
I mean, if I'm the NFL, I don't know that I want to end up on ESPN Plus.
No, but I mean, then again, it's whomever's going to offer you the most money.
Well, like I said, I mean, if the money's close, it's about who's the better situation.
True.
Is Mickey gonna? I don't think that Mickey can really come way over the top of Amazon. I mean, that's just two behemoths going. Who needs to put more money on the table?
Is Apple in the mix with like Apple TV?
They could be. I haven't heard that, but I'm sure Apple would. I'm sure Apple would poke its head in, and see what possibility is out there.
Right. I was just curious. I hadn't heard it either, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Josh, is your audio working correctly? Can you talk and I can hear you?
I don't know. You tell me.
There we go. I can hear you.
I hear you.
All right. Cool.
All right. So Josh, did you watch the fights this past weekend?
I mean, if you want to call them fights, yeah.
Oh, so can Bobby Green shut up now?
No. Bobby Green took the fight on 2 weeks' notice. And he fought Islam Makhachev. Like, he fought a top 5 guy on 2 weeks' notice. And he had to cut a drastic amount of weight.
Bobby Green went in there, talked about how Islam was boring and that he doesn't finish fights and yada, yada, yada. And then Islam, right? Okay. I mean, it's not hard to figure out what Islam wants to do. He wants to take you down. And all I heard about was Bobby spent the whole training camp working on takedown defense. He was totally prepared. And yeah, he fought off the first one, but then Islam put him against the cage, worked him a little bit, and the next thing you know, Bobby was on his back. And then Islam said, "You know what? I don't finish fights. I'm not gonna make you submit. I'm just gonna pound the shit out of you."
Yeah, but I mean, like, so look at it this way, okay? Bobby Green is taking on the McGregor-style persona in this fight. He's coming in there calling him boring, saying he doesn't finish fights. He just takes you down, lays on you, and that's it. So all he does is train for a takedown because he doesn't want to get taken down. He wants to stay standing where he thinks he has the advantage. That's exactly what Conor did to Khabib. And then you saw Khabib, like, Khabib took Conor down, but Khabib also, like, used the threat of his ground game to beat up Conor on the feet too. Like, Conor didn't look comfortable anywhere because he was so worried about a takedown. You saw a lot of that with Bobby Green as well. So I think that there was just a culmination of a bunch of different things. Like, Bobby Green's going to go in and he's going to go in confident because he was like 192 pounds 2 weeks before the fight. So, like, he was massive. And a fighter gets confidence when all he does is train on one specific thing. Like, if you're training for a takedown, like, and that's all you're focused on, that's the thing that you're going to be like, this is all he has that can beat me. I can do everything else. But he didn't train on anything else. So it was just a poor game plan overall that cost him. I don't think that he needs to stop talking. I think he's still going to talk. But
he was so focused on takedown defense, he forgot he needs to punch.
Exactly. That's the same thing that happened to Conor, though. That's what happens with these Dagestani guys. It's that takedown in that ground game is so effective that it has guys forgetting that they need to work. They need to keep their stand-up sharp. You're letting them get away with stuff on the feet that you never would let them get away with if you weren't that scared of their takedown and ground game. So I understand. I don't fault them for it. But I mean, you have to learn from the mistakes of the guys that have come before you. It's a known thing that if you focus solely on a takedown with these guys, it's not going to help you. Like, you have to already have that established to even have a chance against Makhachev or Khabib's cousin or brother, whoever's fighting this coming weekend. You have to have a pre-established wrestling background to really be able to say, like, I can stuff a couple takedowns or I can at least make it tough on them so that I can work him in the stand-up game. Bobby Green didn't have that. He was doomed going into it, but he had to put up that bravado and he had to talk because if he doesn't, he's not going to sell the fight. And I mean, it wasn't even his fight to begin with, so he had to do what he had to do.
He was still talking crap after the fight. That was the amazing thing. Like, he just got the crap kicked out of him. He was still talking crap.
Yeah? Who does that remind you of?
Yeah, that's also true. Okay. So we haven't done a show in a bit, so I can bring this one up too. Going back a couple of fight cards ago, so we had the Usman Whitaker rematch that we had talked about before it happened.
Whitaker.
Or Adesanya, yeah, excuse me. I don't know why I have Usman on my brain. And apparently Twitter took much offense to this. Now, I remember us doing the show before the fight happened. And, we had talked about the path to victory for Whitaker. And I said, Whitaker can't have this go to a decision. Okay, if you're going to beat the champ, you got to beat the champ. Whitaker did not beat the champ. It went to the cards and he lost. But then people on Twitter are going nuts talking about, Whitaker took rounds 3, 4, and 5. If we're debating who took rounds, then Whitaker didn't do enough.
But it is a judging thing. So like that's the big issue here is judging's been inconsistent on these types of fights for years. I mean, you go back to the guy that's in the news as well right now, John Jones. People say Alexander Gustafsson beat John Jones in their first fight. Well, he's in the news because he took another L in his personal life. But when people talk about close decision fights, yeah, he's taking a lot. They talk about like how Gustafsson, John Jones left that fight on a stretcher and still won that fight. And Gustafsson left standing with barely a cut on him. So, I mean, you look at fights like that. You look at what's his name? Guy who fought GSP. Johnny Hendricks. Johnny Hendricks, GSP. You look at Robbie McDonald versus Robbie Lawler 1. You look at, I mean, I could literally just keep bringing up these close fights. Nunes Shevchenko. Like, there's all these fights that have always been close that go to decision. And it's Dana White's big thing since the Ultimate Fighter even is don't let the fight go to the judges. You want to make sure you win. You stop it before you get to the judges. Don't leave it in their hands because you're going to get screwed every.
But not just that. Okay, but the biggest thing I said before the fight is if it goes to the judges, they're always going to side with the champ. Okay, you have
not always, but most of the time.
If you're not the champ, you have to be so you had to do so much. It has to be overwhelming. You cannot even if we're debating it, if there's any room for debate, you're not getting the decision.
Well, I mean, Volkanovski did beat Holloway by decision when he first won it, and then in the rematch he won it the same way. But it wasn't like a decisive victory for Volkanovski. So that was a tough one for a lot of people. What was the other one? Joanna versus Weili Zhang. That was a good fight.
No, I remember that one.
Yeah.
I was like, thank you for bringing that one up, Josh.
You're welcome.
I was gonna say you and I debated that one that night.
And who was right?
Yeah,
that's why they pay me to talk about this sport.
Carl will attest to you that I could have given out the picks for the card on Saturday night, as I hit a very large parlay.
That's true.
And you didn't feel like sharing?
I was at work, man. I literally texted Carl this ticket at like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, it was super early in the morning.
I mean, that's cool.
I was watching, like, it was so late. I was watching Hawaii basketball. That's where we.
That's were right. That's when we started. That's where we started talking about it. And they won too, by the way.
To be fair, last weekend's fights were probably the easiest card to pick in a very long time. Like, there was no surprises on that card at all.
I'm not debating that. Just saying that, where there's money to be made, there's money made. Anyway, let's go to this week. So apparently the co-main event is off, as we have a no sooner did Dana earlier say that nobody's talking about COVID than we have a COVID situation.
Who got COVID?
And
Fiziev got COVID.
Yeah, there we go. I was going to say I forgot what his name was. Fizzy. So he's out. There's no word if there's going to be a replacement or if it's off the card completely. But the fight is Covington and Masvidal. That's all we're here to talk about. For as much as Bobby Green talks, these two were doing all the talking that is needed to pump this fight up. I want to bring it. I'm going to go off the screen here for a second. I want to bring this up because I thought the line was a lot bigger than I expected. So let's bring this up.
You talking about the Covington Masvidal line?
Yeah.
Yeah. Covington is a huge favorite. Minus 320.
30 to plus 220?
I have
I'm
minus
close.
minus 320 for Covington, and Masvidal is plus 250. I mean,
Okay.
Josh, tell me why I shouldn't be throwing something on Masvidal in this fight.
Masvidal has no wrestling. Covington's got a strong chin, so I don't think Masvidal can hang with Covington's pressure, with Covington's overall stamina, pressure, and just overall durability. Covington checks all the boxes against Masvidal here.
Well, here,
Masvidal would have to pull something
You got to knock him
Askren-esque.
out.
Yeah, he's got to knock him out.
He's got to knock him
And
out.
I mean, Usman hits harder than Masvidal does. Usman broke Covington's jaw in their first fight, and Covington continued and fought the entire match. Masvidal takes a punch and goes to sleep from Usman. So
okay, hold on. I want to restructure my question because I don't think I got across what I was trying to. I agree with you that I like Covington in the fight. The first thing that I thought of when I saw the fight is Covington's got a chin and Masvidal doesn't. So I get it. I just didn't think I don't think the gap between Covington and Masvidal is that large. Kind of like when I sent you the Islam look ahead
against
for the title
Oliveira?
fight.
Yeah,
against Oliveira. Like I was stunned at that. Like if you told me they made Islam the favorite, okay, not completely surprised. All the hype is on him. The public will bet him. Makes all the sense. But oh my God.
well, you're talking about two completely different fights, though. Like I'm
No,
throwing
I
money
get that.
at
I'm just using it.
Oliveira at a +3.
I'm using the gap as a comparison.
Right. Like that's a gap where you 100% throw money at Charles Oliveira. The gap with Masvidal and Covington is stylistically not the same.
So you feel the price is right here?
Masvidal's strength. Yeah, I absolutely do. I don't see any error with where they have kind of the lines at right now. I honestly thought it was going to be a little bit closer than what it is, but I'm not shocked at where it is. I think Covington wins this pretty easily. Without seeing the final line, I can tell you that he's the safer of the two bets because Masvidal's strengths don't outweigh Covington's strengths, and Covington has a lot more things going for him. So I think at a minus 320 to a plus 250, yeah, that's perfectly fine. I don't have any issues with that.
So I saw the Lomachenko brothers in boxing have gone and gotten involved in the situation over there between Russia and Ukraine.
Klitschko?
Yeah,
Klitschko.
Vladimir and Vitaly.
When's Khabib going?
Vitaly and Vasily, yeah.
Vladimir and Vitaly.
Well, Khabib won't. Makhachev won't. Yeah, Vladimir and Vitaly, but you do have Vasily Lomachenko also. So you've got 3 Ukrainian boxers they're all going to fight for the Ukraine. Khabib is not necessarily tied to Putin as much as he's connected to Ramzan Kadyrov, who's a whole nother animal. If you don't know who Ramzan Kadyrov is, just go ahead and Google that name and tell me where Khabib's allegiances lie. They're going to try not to get Khabib involved because of Eagle FC, most likely. They're going to try and keep him out of it. And Russia has enough bodies to spare that they don't really care at this point. I think if Russia were being invaded, Khabib would be more likely to be like, I'm going home. I'm going to take care of the homeland. He doesn't have to. The article I sent you. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get to that in a second. I was going to say, I don't think Khabib needs to go. We're calling this a quote unquote war, but war. Usually there's battles and both sides to a war. This has been fairly one-sided. There's not much pushback.
No, it hasn't. I don't know what you're reading. There's been some pretty heavy resistance. And when you have locals that are stealing stuff from Russia, it's not one-sided.
My point, all right, what I meant by one-sided is, okay, yeah, Russia's been met with resistance, but like all the fighting's happening in Ukraine. Like Ukraine hasn't gotten any pushback into Russia.
They're not trying to, though.
Well, my point is that's kind of how a war works. You got to get on the other side.
You want to sit here and tell two veterans how it works?
I'm not sitting here debating. Just saying, give my 2 cents.
You mean to tell me that when we went to Afghanistan and Iraq, they weren't actually fighting a war because they didn't come over to America and fight us here?
Well, I mean, depending on what you want to believe, depending on what side of the fence you stand on the whole conspiracy theories. Okay, maybe they started that one originally. So,
the country didn't start it. That was a group of insurgents that started it, though. So,
well, go by association.
Unless you're on some Bryce Mitchell, then sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Then
let's get the good old. Yeah, let's get the good old Bryce. Yeah, this is. We're here just giving gems. Yeah,
Did you
Bryce.
Hear about this, Carl?
All right,
Bryce Mitchell said.
So I skimmed.
No, I didn't.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. So Josh, you're gonna have to dive into this because I skimmed it. So here's what I got. Bryce Mitchell went on was it Hawani's show, right? Ariel Hawani's?
Yep. Yeah, he went on Ariel Hawani's show.
So he went on Ariel Hawani's because he's on the card Saturday, and he went on basically to promote the fight. But instead of promoting the fight, he said he was going to use the platform to talk about all his activism, talking about how, he wasn't going to get vaccinated and all this other crap, which Josh can lead into because, like I said, I didn't read everything. I skimmed this.
Yeah, there's a couple of key points that he hits on here, and that's basically what I'll stick to his key points.
Yeah, they're key, all right.
Enough in their own. Well, yeah. Some of them Dan really appreciated when he read it too. One of the things that he said here, I want to find exactly his quote. He goes, before the Holocaust in 1938, Hitler banned Jews in Germany from having guns. There's a reason he did that. He wanted to disarm the population before he rounded up and killed them. So that was one quote from this interview with Ariel Hawani. Ariel Hawani, who is...
He's Jewish, isn't he?
I don't think he's Jewish. So, no, I think he's Muslim. I don't know and I don't care. Like, his religion's his business, but I don't know why you bring that up, A. But B, here's some of the other things that he talked about in this interview. The 2017 Las Vegas shooting was an inside job. The government staged that shooting to try and justify banning guns. The same applies to most, if not all, mass shootings. So he's saying the government is the one that's perpetrating mass shootings against, school children and concert goers and all this stuff.
Huh.
He then says the 2020 presidential election was rigged. By the way, it's interesting that he says the 2017 Vegas shooting was done by the government, which would have been Trump's government, and then turns right around and says that the 2020 election was rigged. But okay. Inflation is a form of control by the government. No. Basic economics, not how that works, but okay. Ivermectin works much better against COVID than vaccines, but the vaccines make more money, which is why they're being pushed by the government. I don't know if either one of you got vaccinated, but I guarantee you didn't pay for it because they were giving them out for free. So whatever money you
pretty
think
much.
they're making.
Well, the
let's
VA
see.
paid for mine, so
There's no such thing as a gun problem, just a mental health problem. Did you? Well, yeah, the VA paid for yours, but you didn't pay for it.
no, I not.
So
not correct.
there's that. Right. Healthcare is not a right because you don't have a right to someone else's service. That was the last thing that he said. Last like big key point. So it's not right for you to have medical health or for you to have healthcare because you're not entitled to somebody else's service. So he basically said that there's a reason why his state, which is also my state, Arkansas, doesn't have a vaccine mandate. It's because him and every single one of his neighbors are all strapped. They all have their own arsenals of guns, and they will stand. They will sit there and they will defend their rights, and they will die for their rights if they need to. Now, I mean, I liked Bryce Hall as a fighter. I thought he was a good fighter. He's 14-1. Like, kid's got some talent. He's got a persona for sure, and he has personality. He got Dana White to let Camo be on the fight shorts. Like, that was his doing. It was the interview with a gun on each side of him. And I'm sitting here as a man with my fair share of guns, and I'm like, bro, if that's what you're planning on defending your home with, you're doing it wrong. Like, that's not what you use, but okay. This whole thing is just disgusting. And the worst part is like what came out of this is Bryce Mitchell also saying, I'm not the only guy in mixed martial arts that feels this way. There's a lot of us. So it really makes the MMA community as a whole look bad, and it makes like Dana White look bad, and it makes the whole promotion look bad for allowing people like this to say these kinds of things. I know Dana would care less about COVID if it didn't affect his bottom line and didn't affect his sporting events. Like, he wants to take care of it and he wants to do it right so he can keep his money rolling in. I totally get it. But you have guys like Rogan too. Rogan not doing the broadcast for the last pay-per-view.
I meant to ask you about that. I did notice that.
They said it was a scheduling conflict, and then they came out and said there was no scheduling conflict, but they also said it wasn't tied to his current issues. So
here, I mean, there's so many things to tackle here. Where do I start?
There's been no explanation for what happened there.
Oh, well, I mean,
it's not a scheduling conflict. Dana White came out and said there's no scheduling conflict. I don't know who told you that, but that's not why he wasn't there.
But did he say why he wasn't there, though?
So,
or did he just leave it at that?
He then came out and said if Joe wanted to comment, he could have commentated the fights.
So, and yes, Gunner, I have a Christmas stocking up in the back. I'm fucking lazy. Leave me alone. Okay, so again, where do I want to start with this?
What's that have to do with it?
So the this Hawani show, is it not on ESPN?
No, Hawani's not with ESPN anymore.
I thought the show was on ESPN Plus.
Is it?
Did he say why? What
is Hawani?
I don't know.
He's not on ESPN Plus, is he? No, he left ESPN. I thought they couldn't come to a contract agreement.
Okay, all right. Again, I'm asking where was the show? Is it just a podcast or was it actually like visible? Where's the show at?
Let me look. Here.
All right. Well, anyway, while you figure out where the hell this show comes from, because I need to know if it was just a podcast or if it
No,
Um,
no. Helwani's show. No, Helwani's show is no. No.
oh,
No.
okay, it's a YouTube show. Okay.
No, his contract.
All right.
Yeah, his contract went up for.
All right, YouTube show. That makes a little more sense. Because I'm stunned that
MMA
his
fighting
producer didn't cut
.com,
Mitchell.
and it's on YouTube every Monday and Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm stunned that Helwani's producer didn't cut Mitchell in the middle of this. That's number one. I mean, being that it's on YouTube, like they're not going to do that. It's kind of a free for all, and so Helwani's kind of, cuffed at the seat. So I get that. But like I am.
Can you guys hear me still?
I'm
or
somewhat
am I
surprised.
cutting out again?
we can hear you, but I think you're delayed.
I hear you. I am surprised, and it is Monday, so I mean, there's time. I'm surprised Dana's not doing something about this, like whether
damage
it's.
control?
I mean, I haven't
Something.
heard him speak about. I haven't heard him speak about it. I mean, he didn't cross the line. He went so far over the line with the things that he said that, I mean, if Dana said we're taking him off the card, I don't think he'd get a whole lot of pushback for it.
No, you wouldn't.
But I mean, so we got a guy that basically said Columbine was an inside job. I mean, he used the 2017 Vegas thing, but if all of these mass shootings are inside jobs, Columbine was an inside job. Kids killing kids is definitely government driven.
Right.
The vaccine thing is whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff with the vaccine thing. All right, I'm not in the least bit surprised this guy's a Trump supporter. Not in the least.
Of course not.
Okay, with the crazy crap, so the 2020 election was rigged, but the 2016 one wasn't. Okay, because did anybody remember about all the crap that was going on during the 2016 election?
I do.
With emails and all that. Okay,
Yeah.
and do I need to say anything about anybody who wants to reference Hitler?
Absolutely not.
Okay, when you're using Hitler as the basis for what your however you want to, what your motives are, what your plan of attack is, what your reasoning for something is, okay, you're done. You're done. So I get that. So
No, I agree.
Yeah.
There's a reason why the Third Reich is banned in Germany. I think it's legal to really.
I mean,
there.
I've never seen so many crazy people reference a guy so much about what a intellect and a man way ahead of his time when he was. When let us not forget the guy when the walls closed in, he went in a bunker and killed himself.
And his dog.
Yeah, and took out the dog. Nice job.
Yeah, took out the dog too.
Real animal activist there.
Yep.
So, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, reference Hitler. Wonderful. Next thing he's going to tell me he's got a really big oven in his house.
Yeah. Sounds like something he would say based off the comments I just found out about. Don't want to say anything about Whoopi Goldberg, but she kind of inserted her fucking foot in her mouth too, by the way.
Whoopi always is saying something.
Yeah.
So, that's that. All right. I have no idea what is Josh. Is Josh still with us? Is Josh still talking, or does he talk and I get it 5 minutes later?
I think we get it 5 minutes later.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure what the Josh situation was over there. Yeah, I was gonna say. Oh, okay. We're gonna get Josh's responses through. I'm gonna get Josh's responses through message here, or he's gonna try and reconnect again one more time and see if we can get a good connection while he figures his end out. Carl, you and me can talk about the massacre.
Oh, Saturday.
That was college basketball Saturday. While Josh figures himself out. So the top 6 teams all lose. But you and I talked about it late Saturday night while I was watching Hawaii basketball.
Mm-hmm.
This is an anomaly. It has no bearing on 2 weeks from now when we enter the tournament, and all it shows is what we already knew, and that there is not a dominant team in college basketball. It is, you could come up with, you could probably go 10 deep as far as teams that you could make a case for winning the national championship. Now, mind you, again, okay, well, we want to point out that the top 6 teams lost. You look at it a little deeper, all right? All 6 teams were playing road conference games.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's not like, now, mind you, like the Arizona loss is bad.
Yeah, they lost by 16.
Lose to Colorado.
By 16.
To Colorado.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing for that. But, I mean, like, Purdue losing to Michigan State, not horrible.
Kentucky, Arkansas isn't terrible.
Gonzaga, St. Mary's, a little surprising, but not overly surprising. So I'm not putting much stock into any of it. The top 10 had some change. Gonzaga stayed at 1. Everybody else kind of moved around, but again, none of that really matters. I don't think that any of the 4 overall number 1 seeds are changing. As we head into the conference tournaments tonight, and that'll now happen here over the next 2 weeks. The biggest thing I think that will, what is Gunner saying here? In a way, shows number 1 seed doesn't matter about who wins March Madness. We didn't need Saturday to show me that number 1 seed doesn't matter about who wins March Madness. I mean, how often does a number 1 seed in a bracket win March Madness? How often? I mean, we've had it once or twice in the last decade where we've had all 4 number 1 seeds reach the Final Four. We only had it 2 years ago, I think it was, or whatever it was.
Yeah,
recently.
Generally, all 4 ones don't make the Final Four.
Yeah, you get 1 or 2. That's about it. And even then, even if they get to the Final Four, it's rare that you get a 1 seed that actually goes all the way through. I mean, seeding is just whatever. Doesn't mean much. I mean, usually the top 3 or 4 seeds in a bracket, you could argue you could jockey them however. I mean, there's not a huge gap. But I saw a mock bracket the other. You and I have talked about Duke,
Right.
and that neither of us are big believers in Duke this year.
I'm not.
But we both have the belief that when the bracket comes out, Duke will get a favorable road because the committee would like Coach K to have some sort of run here in his last year. So I was a little bit surprised when I saw a mock bracket the other day, and they had Duke in the same bracket with Gonzaga and Villanova.
I haven't seen any mocks. That is pretty surprising. Where do they have them at? They have them like as a 2 or a 3?
I didn't see it. Somebody brought it to my attention yesterday at work.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't see the whole thing. I forget what exactly we were talking about, but he said, but he said, those were the 3 in that bracket, and I was like, I'm stunned. And the only thing I could think of is if that was the case, which I would be stunned if it is. It would be like Gonzaga and Villanova on the top half of that bracket, and Duke on the bottom, where Duke would the only way Duke would meet them is in the Elite 8.
Right.
Like, there's no way Duke would have to go through both.
Well, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. But I mean, as of now, this is just me. I mean, Gonzaga's has to be your C's don't necessarily mean anything, but I understand they, the top 1 seed, has like the 4th worst second seed, at least to the committee.
Even the way they do this, the 1 seeds now, where like you have the top overall number 1 seed,
Yeah.
and then that, like, it doesn't make any sense because there's no real advantage to being it. It's not like you get put in a bracket where you play at home or something like that. Like, it doesn't mean anything.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that you have favorable locations for your Sweet 16 and Elite 8 matchups. So the Elite 8 and Sweet 16 for Gonzaga's bracket, if they're the number 1 overall, would be like Spokane, or maybe not Spokane, but like Seattle. I don't know, something like somewhere close. You know what I mean? Like for the Western bracket.
No.
But
let's let
Josh.
I was gonna say let's let Josh talk here and see if Josh is on the same wavelength with us. Maybe not.
No.
Okay. Forced to shut. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I mean that I understand the premise behind it, but here's the deal, man. It's fucking college basketball. Like, so much shit can happen. You know what I mean? Like, if you remember back in '97 when Arizona won the title, when they had Bibby and Miles Simon, Michael Dickerson, and those boys, they beat 3 number 1 seeds in that year.
You cut off like mid-sentence. Can you guys hear me or no?
I hear you 5 minutes later, as usual. But yes, I remember the Arizona team.
Right. I mean, they beat Kansas, Kentucky, and then there was another number 1. I mean, they beat 3 number 1 seeds that year. So, I mean, the right team can get hot, and that's the deal. I mean, Butler made it to the national championship that 1 year. I mean, they ultimately lost to Duke, but
I was Gordon Hayward, man.
Yeah, or VCU going to the Final Four, or like, Florida Gulf Coast University or whatever it was. They made it to the Elite 8 that year. It's a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds with an immense amount of pressure, and it's like, you you have like a Duke, like a blue blood like Duke, you know, who has all the pressure, and then like they're playing these, you know, like an Ivy League school or like a Big West school or, you know, whatever, insert whatever smaller conference you want, and like these guys, I essentially just shoot them out of the fucking gym. I mean, that's
Josh said, I don't remember 97 because I was 8 and I don't care about basketball.
Thanks. Okay.
I was gonna say I thought it was because even back in 97 the Gophers sucked, so we didn't have to worry about college basketball because Minnesota was never going to be relevant.
I mean, Wisconsin was well, they lost.
Well, Josh hates
He does.
Josh hates Wisconsin though.
Of course he does.
I was gonna say. I mean, you know, like him and Frank Kaminsky would never get along.
Where is Frank these days? Is he still in the league?
I think so. I don't know what Frank's up to these days. So,
He was a four-year senior.
Yeah. There you go. Wisconsin is worse than hell, according to Josh. So there you go. Well, since Josh is in the chat, we can at least get Josh to type real quickly here as we finish up the show. Let me go off the screen here so I can just double check. I want to see if there's any updates to our situation. Let's see what. There we go. Let's see what this says.
Oh God.
Okay, so here we go. Here's the latest update. As of an hour ago, the two sides remain far apart on some of the key aspects. So 20 minutes ago, the MLB attorneys went to the players for their 7th meeting of the day, and after meeting with the players for what looks like about 5 minutes, they went back to the owners. So here we are at 10:30 Eastern time, and we are still talking, and from what we can tell, there's been about 7 or 8 back and forth throughout the day, but there's still a wide gap on the components, which again we're not surprised about. And Josh here, Makachev is trying to fill in for Vizias on short notice since he put Green to sleep. If Islam fights, oh God. I wish Josh was on camera here because what else? Bryce won't be removed from the card because nobody outside the MMA community knows who he is. I didn't think he'd be. I didn't think he'd be removed for the card. That was more me talking about Dana. You know, like people will look at Dana. People know Dana. So if the story gets a little viral, people will look at Dana. That was kind of where I was going with this. But since Josh is typing, Josh can answer this in the chat and answer me this. As much as I would love Islam to fill in for Viziev here on short notice, since he spent a whole minute and a half in the octagon on Saturday, he is set up for the title fight with Oliveira. Other than his ego, why does he take that fight? Like, he's got nothing to gain by taking that fight. As Josh says, the fight would be at 170, so Makhachev wouldn't have to cut weight. I'll wait for Josh to respond here, but I'd love Makhachev to take the fight. I think he would win, obviously. I'm sure he'd be a huge betting favorite, even on the 6-7 day rest. But I don't see how you're set up for a title fight and then you take this fight that in no way elevates you. I mean, you're the number one contender. What purpose do you have to take this fight? I mean, Carl, would you take that fight?
No, I wouldn't take it. There's no reason to.
I mean, Dana came out after the Bobby Green fight and said his next fight will be the title fight. So, what we got here? Different weight class. Fighting RDA at 170 in a different division doesn't affect his title shot at 150. So, Josh, are you saying that by taking this fight, Islam maybe could go the Conor route of the 2 belts in 2 divisions? I didn't realize this was a different weight class. But I mean, Conor was the last guy with 2 belts in two weight classes, right?
I think so.
He didn't hold that second belt for very long, but
No, I think you're right though.
I think he's the last guy I remember. Josh says nope. I guess that's a nope to my Makhachev going for the second belt.
But if he's not going for the belt, what's the point of taking a fight?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's another reason why I don't. If he, what's the point of just to show that he could fight that he could dominate at another division? I mean, I don't.
Right. Nunes. Oh, Cormier. That's right.
Yeah, I forgot Cormier had the two belt, and I wasn't. I was thinking about men, not women, when he brings up Nunes. So. Both did it after Kano, so did it. Okay, all right. You made your point, Josh. I was wrong. All right, move on. All right, so all right, so Josh, type in here and specify if your no is to my idea about Makhachev going for the second belt, because I'm trying to decipher why he's taking this fight, if he is taking the fight. But anyway. So real quickly here as we wrap up and I wait for Josh's response. Like I said, 10:30. The sides are still talking. Makhachev. Let's see. Makhachev would be going for 2 division titles. Yes. The nope was for Conor. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That's right. All right. So Makhachev's saying, I got 155 locked down. I got my title shot. Let me go start building up for 170.
Right.
That's what that is. Which in that case, by all means, I respect that. Go mess up 170 because I think he'll mess up 170 too. Kid is a beast.
He is a beast.
All right. So anyway, obviously the sides are still talking. Seems like even though we're still talking, there are still the gaps have not shortened at all here. So, I mean, are you any more? I feel like you and me were pretty similar on the optimism meter when we started this show. We're nearly 2 hours
not.
later. Are you? I was saying, so are you any more optimistic?
No.
Okay.
This is almost
I just wanted to make sure.
This is like a smoke screen, man. Like you said, what he was in there for? They were together for what, 5 minutes? Were you really discussing a fight?
Let's put it this way. I went on whoever's timeline that was. So when I looked at it 24 minutes ago, the tweet was that they were going to the player's side. And literally 5 minutes after he sent that tweet, he sent another tweet that said they were going back to their side. So whatever, I don't know if it was literally the lawyers coming into the player's side, putting the offer on the table and going, okay, these are the points that we've kind of look it over. We'll get back to us. Or it was they walked in, the player said, go F yourself. And then they walked back. I don't know how that works. I also don't understand the 2 command posts. Why are you not in the same room?
That's what I don't understand. It's like, why can't they just sit there and hash it out, or at least have like a statement ready? I don't know, man. Because I don't think they're anywhere close or.
Josh, well, we didn't get, Josh came in late, so I don't know that he really heard us at the beginning. Josh goes, no way. They sign an agreement tonight or tomorrow. By the end of the week, we might have a better idea where the agreement really is. Like we said at the beginning of this show, they're going to punt the first month. I think they're going to punt 2 months. Would you really want to be in a room with Rob Manfred? I would love to be in a room with Rob Manfred. Actually.
Yeah, you asked the wrong person that question.
I was going to say, by all means, you know what? You don't even have to put me in the same room. Get me on a Zoom call with Rob. I would love Rob to come on this show. Open invite for Rob Manfred to come on this show.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's gonna go like the David Stern Jim Rome interview.
I will make a deal. If Rob Manfred comes on this show, I will rename the show Piece of Metal.
Piece of Metal. Yeah, I like it.
I think that's a fair deal.
It is a fair deal. You're gonna have to clear all your questions for him or ahead of time.
Am I allowed to bang trash cans during the interview?
Of course.
Rob can't even figure out how to modernize baseball. You think he knows how to work a Zoom? They got people that run the Twitter. They'll hook him up with the Zoom. I mean, he's got people for that.
Yeah, he has PR people and all that stuff.
Yeah. I was gonna say Rob does. I mean, I've seen Rob on Zoom calls. He's got somebody that sets that up. That's fine.
Bang all the trash
Josh
cans.
wants me to bang all the trash cans. That's right. All the trash cans. All right, so that's it for this. By no surprise, there's no agreement. There was no agreement before we got on, no agreement after we're getting off. So, does he use those PR people? He uses them. Now, does he use them appropriately? Would be a better question. I think that. I mean, he uses them, but whether or not appropriately is a whole other question. But it goes together. So yeah, no agreement. I don't think one's coming here in the next hour or so. So no agreement today.
Hour, 20 minutes.
Yeah, no agreement on the horizon is how we'll go. Assuming Josh can work out the kinks, me, and the stash will be back here tomorrow to do NU. Me and Josh talked earlier. The first reviews for the Batman movie are out. So Josh is leery of buying into the reviews. But a lot of things for us to discuss. I mean, we haven't done a show since before the Super Bowl. We haven't even talked about the Super Bowl halftime show yet. So lots of things for us to discuss tomorrow on NU. So we'll be back doing that then. But Carl, thank you for sitting in tonight and getting the show done, moving it along, talking some college basketball. I was gonna say, I think once we get the bracket, we'll bring you back for the bracket breakdown.
All right, perfect.
Obviously, Josh doesn't care. So
no, obviously not.
You.
All right, man.
I'll say we'll get the scout in the chat. I'm sure he'll break it down for us as well, and
I'm sure.
All that good stuff. All right, but Carl, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us. Josh, thanks for coming in and your PC taking a crap on us and all that stuff. We'll be back tomorrow night.
All right.
Have a good one.